This is Chew on This with your host, Monique Baker McCormick, and her co-host, Michael Van Tull, powered by the McCormick Report, Detroit's longest-running online community newsletter since 2008.
This is your host, Monique Baker McCormick, where we dish out real talk about real situations in real life. This is an extension of the McCormick Report, an online newsletter that provides resources to our community to make us better than we left our community. We try to do things that make a difference in our community. And my favorite person is my co-host right here, Michael Van Tull.
I'm so glad to be here, and this is exciting, and we're looking forward to engaging conversations. We've got a couple of guests on this evening, and looking forward to a lively discussion.
Yes, and one of my favorite people, Alexis, she is with the Motown Women's Veterans Organization. You know, I'm a veteran of the United States Army, and so veterans are so very important. Not just veterans, but I gotta give it to my fellow veterans every time. I try to do what I can.
And you do. And you always lift them up and participate in all the events every year too.
That's right. And I believe if you put yourself out there to serve, that you deserve so much more than sometimes that we get. We don't really get what we deserve. And so I try to do what I can to give back to our veterans. So yes. Alexis is here to talk about veterans resources.
And then we're going to be talking to Frank Woods later too. One of those movers and shakers in town. Everybody's not on the front page all the time. There's some people that work behind the scenes, and they're involved, and they take action, and they're doing things.
That's right.
And he's one of those people, and we're looking forward to talking to Frank Woods.
The Wayne County Democratic Caucus, and he's the current chair.
Chair.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
And big UAW guy.
Exactly.
Union man. So.
Yeah, and so we also want to talk about some hot topics and some things that's going on in the community. One of the things that, I have to announce, the passing of one of my colleagues, the great Irma Clark Coleman. She represents District 2, and it's just so sad that we have someone like her on her caliber that passed away. She did a lot of great work in the community. She was 88 years young, still serving, still out doing the work of the community and making sure that our community is well served.
Yes, a fellow Wayne County Commissioner, and she has held a number of positions over the years, a public person, public servant, and has held many positions over the years, and it was currently on the Wayne County Commission.
Yeah, she was the senator. She was state rep for a while.
Was she on the school board too?
She was on the school board, Detroit School Board. Yeah. She served under the McNamara administration and for Coleman A. Young. Yeah. So she has been around was around for a very long time, and she will be dearly, dearly missed.
Yes, already is. And I've known her on the sidelines for many years. There's a lot of functions that I used to go to, and she was there, and just got to meet her that way, just by going out all the time and meeting and talking. Sometimes that's how you meet people, just going out. That's how I met Commissioner Irma Clark Coleman.
Yeah, and on a better note, I did want to mention that I also, a lot of people don't know that I'm a paralegal. After getting my master's degree in business, I went back to school and I got my paralegal degree. And why I mention that is because I'm just so proud of the American Bar Association, they actually sued in order for the Trump, actually under the Trump administration, to halt his executive order that targets law offices. And what that does, it dampers or chills what a law firm would do, or cases that they would take.
Yes.
Because if you're fearful that your law office will no longer get or
access.
have access
to federal buildings and some of the cases and things like that. Yeah,
Yes.
it just takes it threatens to take away their power.
That's right.
And their right to do business.
Right,
Yeah.
and not only the cases, but in some actual incidents where a law firm had a individual that worked for them, and the Trump administration didn't necessarily like that individual, then they would actually go after the entire firm.
Yeah.
So again, that chills the impact that lawyers can have on affecting change. I mean, we wouldn't be here today as Black people in America if it had not been for some of the law firms that pro bono took cases to ensure our rights.
Yeah,
And
it's another one of those overreach of power from the White House and in Washington. It's a complete overreach of power, and these law firms have the right to do business, and nobody should be able to have that much of an impact on their ability to function.
That's right.
You know, just like the universities. And I thought the Republicans did not want to be involved in our day-to-day life, and all of a sudden now the Republicans and the administration want to tell us how to teach. I mean, you know, who died and made them the people that decide what's being taught in universities?
That's right.
And what
That's
they
right.
should focus on and things like that.
And books, and I mean, it's just at every level of
And
our
now-
life
and
is being
now-
affected.
And now law firms.
Right.
No, I think they do have a right to fight back.
Yes,
and
yes.
and the American Bar Association, that's what they're doing.
That's right. And
Yeah.
I want to applaud the American Bar Association. Give them a
Yes.
hand clap. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all that you do. All that you do. And so with that, we're going to take a very short break, and we're going to bring back our very first guest. That's Frank Wood. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about himself and how he's always been a person that works for the people and making sure that we get our just in Detroit and beyond.
That's
actually.
right. Yeah.
So we'll be right back.
Chew on this with your host, Monique Baker McCormick, and her.
Well, welcome back to Chew on This, Detroit style. We have in the house our very special guest.
Yes, Frank Woods, a retired UAW official, chairman of the Wayne County Black Democratic Club.
Democratic Black Caucus.
Okay, Democratic Black Caucus, and one of those political operatives here in town, and much more. And we'll find out much more, because I know there's a whole big long bio.
Yes.
But those are just three that I mentioned. But welcome to Chew on This, Detroit.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for
Frank.
having me.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Yeah. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I just mentioned three of those things, but fill us in with some of the rest.
Wow. All right. Well, I worked for the UAW for international staff for 24 years, and I was a 44-year member of the UAW.
44 years?
44 years.
Are you 44?
I'm 60.
Well, he looks good.
He's
He
45.
does,
He's
guys.
45.
I am a proud 66-year-old man.
All right. Okay.
All right, now.
Product of Detroit Public Schools. Live in Detroit, born and raised. Still live here. Don't plan on going anywhere. Could have, like a lot of folks, I could have moved out. But I chose
Still
to stay.
right here.
Right here. I'm still in my 4 or 5 mile radius. I grew up with, my mom lives over on Sorrento, which is not far from here.
Almost like you have your own little town. On
yeah,
the west side.
And he actually does over there. He has a little fort, Nettyville.
Yeah,
that's what they call it. It's a town. It's a township.
Hey, I had to do something.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your space that you have. This is a really nice space.
Okay. Back when I moved from actually Jeffersonia, I bought the house in 2019. And I was actually working in California at the time. And being a young lady I worked with, I met her working on the road, and she used to call me Nitty. So I'm gonna give you how we got the name. And so when I was out there, she said, "So we bought a house now. You got to name it. What you gonna name it, Nitty?" So we started kicking out some names,
Frank Nitty.
That's what she called me. And so,
right.
and funny, it's not the first time somebody called me that. So.
That's why you have that Godfather look about you. Yeah. Now it all comes together. Frank Nittyville.
So she gave it to me, Nittyville, and so the space has been evolving, and I really started on doing COVID. We got the call, we couldn't go in the office, had to stay home, so I'm sitting out here looking outside, and I got to do something about getting outside. So I'm a visionary.
He is a visionary. Yes.
I was envisioning how I wanted this to be and what I wanted it to be. Because, running in political circles or in business circles, a lot of times we don't have places we can just go and talk off the beaten path without somebody saying, "Oh, what they meeting for?"
Yes.
Did you know they was hanging out? Did you know they was meeting? What's going on? That kind of thing.
Seems like it's getting like that again.
Yeah. Everybody's in everybody's. Everybody does it. So that's what I said. I'm gonna create that space for having a dialogue and dialogue between people to try to get them to understand why we need to be active in our community.
That's right.
And with young men in the UAW, and men and women in the UAW who want to become leaders within the UAW. So I have these conversations with folks on that front, on the political front, and with that, I get all kind of opportunities. Because I've been in many different spaces in my career. I've negotiated national contracts. I've helped national political campaigns. I was one of the labor people for the Biden-Harris team, and previous to that, helped out with the second President Obama election. So I was a delegate. So I've always been in that space, and so when folks would ask about Detroit politics, other black folks from other cities, they said, "Oh, you probably should call Frank." Because I did that space for UAW for like 10, 15 years.
And door-to-door canvassing and all of the background.
Yeah, that was part of my job, was to actually put people on the street. Yeah.
Well, what makes you so effective, in what you've been doing? Some people can't do that. What makes you effective in reaching people and organizing?
Well, organize. That's why I came to organizing UAW.
Okay.
When I was a rep, you go in, you want to be rah rah, boom 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 boom, and show people that you the leader of their unit, whatnot, and they can trust you. But becoming an organizer taught me how to listen. And listening is the actual is the.
So it's not all about making all the noise.
It's about making noise. It's about listening
Okay.
and actually seeing what people want and what people need. And instead of going to somebody's house and going to tell them, say, well, you know, you need to do this. You know, you need to do that. You need to vote. So instead of saying you need to vote, ask them what would you change if you had a chance. What would you change? Your opportunity.
That's right.
What would you change? And then you know they get to talking about it. I would change this.
You're engaging.
I mean,
them.
yes.
Yeah.
And so people like to be engaged. So a lot of we've got to the point we talk at people. We don't engage them in conversation. It's,
You know, I heard that's one of the reasons why Democrats kind of lost some momentum over the years is because we haven't been
they've been
listening. Yes.
They have I must say, the higher up Democrats.
And whole groups of people have been marginalized because of that.
Absolutely.
They were so busy telling them what
Their issue was.
Yes.
Instead of listening.
Instead of listening and
That's
see
right.
what the issue is.
That's right.
I mean, that's basic organizing. Why do you think Obama was so successful? He listened. He understand that organizing is 80% listening to your constituents.
So if you want to organize, you know, or are you still retired?
Yes, I'm retired from the UAW.
Okay, all right.
But you are chairman of the
I'm
Wayne
the chairman of
County
Wayne County Democratic
Black Caucus. So you
And-
still out there working.
Yeah,
You
and
still
we're
are.
in the process of actually restructuring and reorganizing that organization because, as you said earlier, you know, it became more of just a mouthpiece, and we want to continue to be a mouthpiece, but we want to be one that actually
Listens
to what the people want.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And again, bring more. My purpose is to turn the conversation to what we don't talk about in the black community is economic development
Oh yes.
and economics.
Yes.
You know, we tend to focus on civil rights, and the real, I'm going to tell you the low-hanging fruit. You know, we leave a lot of money on the table in the county, in the state, in the city, because we don't, when things are, or we get money from the feds, we don't have people in certain spots that don't know how to get the money.
That's so
Okay.
true. I say that all the time as a commissioner. You know, we spend billions of dollars every single year, you know, and so I even tried to have a workshop that bring folks in to show them the way, but we just need to work together in that, and that's our hardest challenge, is working together and bringing more people in, younger people in.
Right.
That's our challenge.
And that's what you're doing too as a commissioner. You're including youth with your office, and then you also fight for money for the neighborhoods in your district too. I'm just saying because I'm right there on the front line, and I know and I see what's going on.
We know what's
okay?
going on. So, you know.
But that's what Frank is alluding to, is that we have
You have to fight for the money. Bring
fight.
it here.
That's right.
You got to know where it's at, how
And
to get it.
and put people in place.
And put people in place, and you talk to your constituents and say, well, look, this money has come from the feds. We need people that can do X, Y, Z. This is what you need to do to actually get this money. But you have to don't just get the money and squander it. You have to actually have a plan for utilization of the money. And
record keeping, and you have to follow the rules of how you get the money. You got to follow it. Yes.
And like I tell my kids all the time, and they should know this, is the P's, right? Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know.
And that was it. That's what I grew up on, and that's what they grew up on. And we have to prepare.
And that's what I had to do when I was repping UAW. I negotiated contracts. I had to prepare. And I come from a small unit. I didn't come from a Ford to get them over to Chrysler.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a small unit. It was 35 people when I started.
Really? Oh, okay.
Then it was 135 when I left.
Okay.
So I ran and became chief steward for there. I was there for 16 years as chief steward.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to prepare
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have the help of the international departments to cost contracts, to know the laws, to do, because the smaller units don't get that type of service.
Mm-hmm.
Only when there's a major problem we can't solve, then we have to call the international in. So a lot of folks, if you don't understand just your basics of what you need to do, that's where we fail.
Mm-hmm.
Same way with the elections. We always tell people they got to register to vote. But that's the end of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Registering to vote is fine. Voting is the end of the process, right?
Right.
What happens in between? What do you do? Where do you attend? Do you go check out city council?
Right. How do you
Right.
know who
How
to
do you
vote
know?
for?
How do you know who to
Right.
vote for?
That's right. That's right.
You know, and you got all these candidates coming at you, and they can do all these wondrous things, and they may not have a clue about what they're getting into. And we've done that. We've done ourselves a disservice for so long by electing people like that.
You know, speaking of, one of the things that I know, I think we both know, is that you challenge that. You challenge the status quo
You
of
have to.
voting the same way, voting for the same person time and time again, getting the same results.
Right. You know,
Talk about that a little
well,
bit.
you know, and we have gotten into that. I'm gonna say we went from principle politics to personality politics.
Mm.
Yes.
And when we used to elect people on principles that they understand what we were, what we do, how we do it, to somebody that I got a name and I like their style, I like how they talk, I like how they walk. We got so entrenched into that all they had to do was have a name.
Or buy chicken dinner.
Or buy chicken dinner, you know what I mean? And you can go down the road of like names that we've elected through the years, and some of these people they were relatives and some weren't, but the name worked.
Yep. Look, Frank, I know some that changed their name
Just to run, right?
to the family name
Okay.
so that they could run
So they
with
could
that
run with
name.
their name.
Yes.
That's right.
I'm
So-
not going to name the families, but I know
Right.
they have been to court to make sure that their name matches the family that they're now in.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that it can match so that they can win. And guess
Yeah.
what? They win.
Right. And they do. And then those are the ones that are the gatekeepers. Because I always say the gatekeepers are the ones that don't have the really knowledge and done the work. They get there and they got somebody they can say tap that they know is going to go along
To get along.
to get along, or because some money may come their way,
Something.
position may come their way,
Yeah.
something may come their way. I've never been a status quo kind of guy. I mean, I even challenged it when I was in the UAW, you know, because I was in charge of the screenings, and we had to present who we screen to our leadership, and give them a reason why we want this person, that person. That didn't always translate to them getting the
Right.
endorsement,
Right. Right.
but I still had to challenge them and say, well, why are we electing this person?
Exactly. Is it a fair process? Are
Right.
we really truly vetting
Right.
the candidates, or are we just going through the motions?
right.
Right.
I remember for years when you ran against a Detroit City Council member, the way they handled you is that they completely ignored you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so that they won't have to deal with anything.
Right.
And as long as they can ignore you, they'll get back in.
Oh, yeah.
And in order to break into that and get past that, you have to challenge the status quo, and break in and knock the doors down, knock the
Yeah.
walls down in order to get in, or else they're just going to ignore you. And that's what the mayoral candidates
Right.
do it too.
Right. I used to always hear, growing up, coming through the process, you got to pay your dues. You got to pay your dues.
All the
You got to
time.
pay your dues.
It's not your turn.
It's not your turn.
Oh, I've heard that too.
And I
Sit out this term, but you never get a chance to get back in.
No.
and so you're right. But see, and then think about this: you got two people running against each other for the same seat. You sit down and work it out, right? You say, okay, well, look, I may have a better chance because the polling says I might win. So why don't you be my chief of staff?
And I think that makes sense.
You be my chief of staff, and if I win, and when my term is up, you run. You're
Teamwork.
prepared.
You have
That's
a conversation.
You have
plan.
that conversation. You plan it
Yes.
out. And we don't do that.
No.
And
No.
I
Everybody want to jump in.
Well, and it started back when we had Straight City Council on TV back in the day, with all the craziness.
I know.
With
Shrek.
Even
Before that.
Before that.
It was. I'm talking about
Kay and
Clyde and all them, and they was going at it.
Yeah.
And one election after that, because there was just so much chaos, the election came for city council. Over 200 people ran for that seat.
Really?
200.
I think I remember that.
Wow.
And
That's within the last 20 years, right?
Yes.
25 years.
25 years.
Yes, I remember that. I
and
remember.
they
Y'all
ran. Yeah. And
No,
it was so many people. It was over 200. I think it was 209, something like that. Got in the race.
Wow.
Based on what they saw on TV, they thought, "Oh, I can do that job."
Oh, that happens all the time.
So that's where it all started.
That's where it really started, because people
yeah.
started seeing what so-called went on in chambers,
Right.
and instead of seeing
But that's
work being done,
Right.
right.
they saw a clown show.
Not only
Exactly.
do you have to work to get elected, there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of
Once you
walking,
get
talking,
there, yeah.
Right.
you know. And then there's work when you get in the office. There's a lot of work.
And I posed that question to somebody: "Are you qualified to do the work?" Well, he said, "I got the qualifications just to run." I said, "But can you do the work?"
And what have you done, before this?
What have you
You know
done-
what I'm
what have you
saying? What
prepared?
have you done lately
What have
to
you
prepare to
right.
be in this seat? See, some people think, oh, well, it's a clown in the White House. I can be one too.
Well, that's
You
how
know what I'm saying?
That's how the clown got there.
So I can do it. And now you got everybody just kind of, and that's how we're getting this. It's dumbing down
We have.
every level of government.
Right. We've done ourselves for such a disservice by not making sure we have people that are qualified that can actually do the work.
Right, and that before you run, I advise my candidates and friends, before you run, work for some community organizations.
That's right.
Roll your sleeves up and get out there and do the
Right.
work. Don't
And-
just all of
yeah.
a sudden a seat opens up and you want to run, and then you're trying to get all these people to endorse you. And you're paying people to endorse you so that you can put all that stuff on your flyer, and you haven't done a thing.
I remember I sat on so many endorsement committees one year, and candidates would come in. They were like, "You again?"
They got to get past you.
I
Right?
said, "Well, no, because you got to be involved for one,
Right.
and you want to make sure they're telling the same story."
Because
Yes.
they might be telling it one
Right.
over here.
You're trying to use this
And-
one, and you got a whole different story over there.
See, you
So
just
they
brought
can't
up-
lie now, because you there twice. You can call
Right.
them out, right?
Right. So-
or 3 times.
And some of them did stuff a few years ago, and then come back out in another race, and you never hear about it.
Yep.
But it's good to bring it up at the forum,
Yeah.
at the debate. Bring it up. Weren't you the one that did this?
You see, and so, and like I said, we did such a disservice to ourselves by getting into that type of people we want to elect for office.
Yeah.
And it went from being a good, dignified career to where, anybody can do it. Hell, anybody can flip burgers,
Yeah.
Right.
right? And that's what we've turned being an elected official into.
Yes.
And so
And it's
that's why a lot of the
unfortunate.
younger folks look at it like, why would I want to do that?
That's true.
Why would they get involved in that?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not interested in
Because
that.
they see the clown
Because
show.
they see the clown show, and
Yes.
they think it should be more than that. And you ask, well, how do we get to this? They don't understand it. And then if you ask the elected official, more times out of 10, they don't understand it because you've got term limits. They get in the job, they're in there, they go on 8 years later,
Right. Or they're trying to move to the
move
next.
to another seat.
Right. Wherever they can fit
Wherever
in.
they can fit
you know,
in.
where they can get
Wherever
into
their
the
name
position.
could carry.
That's right. That's
You know,
right.
but
So what do you think is something that we can do to change the way that we're going right now? What is it that we can
I really
do?
think we have to include, we got some real talented young people out there that want to be part of the process.
Okay.
They're asking, but they don't know where to go. I mean, I talked to some and I said, well, you can get on them. You can talk to the candidate. You can spray them. Well, how would I do that? We can join different organizations. That's what I told them about the Wayne County Black Dems. You can join our organization. We have a screening committee. I can appoint you to the screening committee, and you can be there when you do the interviews for these candidates.
I like
and
that.
you can go back and tell your friends
Right on the front lines.
why you're on the front lines.
Yeah.
You can tell them, well, come get involved. You can actually do this. And then when we host a forum, you got people who can ask real questions
To real people.
to real people.
Yes.
And now you're accountable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now you're accountable to who you're bringing in and who you're talking to. And the younger folks I got some talented young folks that I
Well,
know.
you know what, Frank? We've got to have you back, and maybe you can bring one of those
Oh, I'd be glad to.
talented young people along. I even have some, I work with younger
Mhm.
people, 10th through 12th
Right.
grade, but definitely we need some of those folks that can dive right in
Right.
another,
Right.
4 years, maybe they just preparing them to run, because we need that.
it
We
went
need
for-
that now.
Like I said,
Yeah.
when you said earlier, we said earlier about wait your turn.
Right.
I believe that sometimes you just have to throw them in.
Oh, definitely. Definitely
Yeah.
that too.
You got to
Yeah.
throw them in,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
you got to still
But
be
you-
there to mentor them.
That's what I was going to say. And
Now you can't let them
preparing
go, and you're preparing them.
That's right. That's right.
Monique, can we have him back again?
Oh, definitely. We
There
got
are
a lot to talk
more
about.
questions
Yes.
that I had for him.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to wait for we get closer to the election and
Yes,
things like
and
that.
bring it
Because
back.
I'm going to bring them back. I'm going to bring as many as I can, but I know
Okay.
two
All
for
right.
sure.
All right.
great answers,
that I
great
can look
conversation.
at. And
Mhm.
we can be better. We are better. We're better than what we've been doing.
Yes, I think we, as we move forward, and the work that I do as a commissioner, I'm always looking at young people to bring them in.
Mhm.
That is how we do
That's
that.
how we
Yeah.
do it.
That's how
Yes.
we reach back and bring someone into the folds and bring them up.
Well, we got
So
to
yes,
right.
definitely.
We can't be afraid to give them the time to do it. Give it to them and say, hey, look, this is what you got to do.
One thing about young people now, and I am a little bit older, but one thing about young people now, they are bold. They're
Mhm.
not afraid.
Nope.
They've got the energy,
Yeah.
and they're ready.
They're ready.
And-
They're more ready
yes.
than we think because they watch.
Yes.
Mhm.
So
And they got way more access to information than we ever had.
That's true.
Yes.
That is so true.
Okay?
Well,
That's all.
thank you. Thank you so much again.
thank you, Frank
You're
Nitty.
welcome. I want y'all to read my shirt. I want y'all to read my shirt. What my shirt say?
Uh-oh.
I'm a part of the solution.
That's it.
Okay,
And
I like
in the
that.
D, and that's nice. Did you create that?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay, because I know you create.
A friend of mine brought me these T-shirts.
T-shirt.
Wait till you read the back.
Oh, all righty.
that's
Well,
nice.
let's
Read
see
the
what
back.
the back says. I'm a
Um,
leader,
Resident, patron, business owner, first responder, educator, employee, supporter, artist, and visionary. I'm doing my part. Look at
Amen.
that.
That's
all of that on the
exactly
T-shirt.
the way to end, by saying we're visionaries.
That's right.
And we're doing our part. That's what Chew on This is about. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back with our next guest.
All right. Thank you.
This is Chew on This with your host, Monique Baker McCormick, and her co-host, Michael Van Tull, powered by the McCormick Report, Detroit's longest running online community newsletter since 2008.
All right. Hey. So welcome back to Chew on This. I'm your host, Monique Baker McCormick, with
Michael Van Tull.
That's right, Michael. And our special guest today, my good friend, Alexis of Motown Women Veterans. And we are having her here to just tell us a little bit about herself and the organization and all the great things that you're doing in our community. What you doing? What's going on?
Oh my goodness, Malik, stop it. Motown Women Veterans was founded back in 2019. And basically what our organization does is that we host events for our women veterans to bring them out of isolation, to help prevent depression, suicidal thoughts, because a lot of women veterans feel like they're out here alone, and basically that nobody really cares about them because everything is about our male veterans. But again, I always try to make sure to let the women know that they're not invisible. They're just as important as our male counter.
Not invisible. Yes.
And to stand up and be proud for the time that you served in the military.
That's it. That's right. And you started that I'm Not Invisible campaign. Can you tell us, that was a real powerful event and that I went to and I was part of. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So that started again back in 2019, and there was this young lady, I think her name was Miss Mary Walker, and she actually started the campaign. And what the VA was responsible for doing was going to every VA across the nation to make sure that they were acknowledging female veterans. And so it just so happened that they seen me on Channel 2 News when I was doing an outdoor event for women veterans, and they contacted me and asked me could I get some of our women veterans together in Detroit. And so they came in, we set the event up, and ever since then Motown Women Veterans is known throughout the campaign for I'm Not Invisible.
Yes, that was so powerful. We had, how many ladies did you have, veterans
I think it was like 25 or 30 of us.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Yeah, and so now moving forward, ever since then, every October throughout the nation, the pictures are reposted throughout the hallways in the VA hospitals. So if you missed it, there will be one again in October, and you will see all our female veterans posters throughout the lobby.
Great.
So Alexis, what's your background as a veteran?
Well, I served in the U.S. Army for 6 years, and after being discharged from the military, I worked at the post office, and then I also was a table game dealer, day one dealer at Motor City Casino. Did that for like 10 years, and that's how I ended up being relocated to Albuquerque, New Mexico, because they was opening up a casino out there. But the thing about it is that, when it comes to Mexico, I applied and did the interview and everything online, but what they was not expecting was a 6-foot dealer. And I'm telling you, because everything
Did you intimidate them?
Yeah.
They felt intimidated.
Yeah, and not only that, the tables were set for someone 5'5".
Okay.
So by me being 6 feet and that constant bending and dealing the cars, it tore my back up.
Oh no.
Yeah, and so eventually I had to leave that job, and that's when I became more familiar with the benefits and everything for veterans, because even though I was a veteran and had been out of the service for 15 years, I still never utilized the benefits of the VA, because one, like all our women, and this is what makes me so adamant about helping our other female veterans, I didn't feel like I was a veteran. And so one of the young ladies, she took me under her wing, and she walked me through the process of the VA, and next thing I know, I'm an employee at the VA. I retired from the VA, and
the rest is history.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes.
You know, it's funny you said that, because when I got out of the military, it was just like another day. I just went back to civilian life, like I was never in the military, and there was no really any type of re-entry or any kind of
support.
Anything
Nothing
that to help me transition
exactly
back in. And I mean, I wasn't in full time because I was a reservist, but it was still, like I had never been in. It was like, oh well, she just went away, and she just went to her little weekends and now she's out and that's it.
Exactly.
So I understand what you mean by not really feeling like a full blown veteran. You don't know what that is until
So I
someone
guess most people
explained
felt
it
like
to you. Yeah,
And
that's what she's saying.
And that's how you were able to help, because look how natural it felt to not even inquire about it. You
Exactly.
just wanted to just make your own way, but you then started to help others just like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like my dad, he was in the Navy.
Mhm.
Even was in a time with Pearl Harbor. My brother was a Marine, and then I went in the Army, being a little time girl, and I wanted to follow my dad, and my brother.
So that runs in the family.
Yeah,
Okay.
but still, even when
I'm
I
learning
got
more and
out,
more.
I didn't acknowledge myself as a veteran as my dad and my brother.
Thank you, Alexis. You are a veteran just like your dad. And we're going to do what we can to support women transitioning out and make sure that they have quality jobs just like the men. Thank you so much, Motown Women Veteran.
Community newsletter since 2008.
Well, welcome back to Chew on.
So we had a great show today.
Yes, we have. I'm just so glad to have guests that really challenge the status quo. They're not about just doing the same thing the same way.
Yeah, Frank Woods, Nitty.
Exactly.
Frank Nittyville and all that. And Alexis Derriso.
Yes.
From Motown Veterans Women's Organization.
Yes.
So, very interesting. Learned a lot, too. But, there's, we always talk about other people, but yourself, I just want to take a minute. I just want to take a minute because
what I do now?
First of all, let me just say this. Let me say this right now, because this young lady right here is a 4-term Wayne County Commissioner. Okay, a U.S. Army veteran, and we talked about that a few minutes ago. The founder of the Wayne County Commission Youth Council, and the incoming president of the National Association of Counties Women's Council. So maybe let's talk about that.
Well,
now, what you got to say about that?
You know what?
So this is you're coming into the council now, National Association of
Counties. I am, and you know what?
Congratulations!
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Yes.
We'll give a applaud for that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But you know what? In all seriousness, we just. For me, Juneteenth passed, and I don't know what it is about Juneteenth, but it just makes me feel the sacrifices of our ancestors. It helps me to ground myself and realize that I stand on the shoulders of so many
That
people.
others help you get to this point.
Exactly. I didn't
Yes.
get there by myself.
Right.
I could not get to this point by myself. And I want to always acknowledge my ancestors who died, bled,
Yep.
fought for me to be a commissioner.
And during
right?
the civil rights era, they got shot. They got bombed. They really sacrificed, and they took the hit.
They took the hit
at that time.
And that's why I keep fighting for what's right and fighting for the next generation of leaders. So yes, I am the incoming president of the National Association of Counties. This is a organization with over 40,000 elected officials all over the country. We come together 4 or 5 times a year to ensure that we create policies that impact positively our communities. And so for the last 6 years, I have been a proud member of the National Association of Counties. And just recently, I was the former vice president and then the president-elect for the Women's Council of our National Association.
And what I like about that is that it's for all the country.
Right, it's a nonpartisan group, so
Yeah.
it's not about being blue or red
or black or white. It's all.
It's everybody. And
Okay.
so for me, it's about making a difference. It's always been about making a difference. That's one of the reasons I started the McCormick Report, And, like I said, Juneteenth, and it's past now, but it always makes me reminisce about what our ancestors have done and how far we've come. And so for me to be where I am today, I want to work towards helping the next generation, because it's not all about me, it's about the future of our young people. So as the incoming president of the national organization, much like our Wayne County Commission Youth Council that I formed from the ground up with the support of my colleagues on the Wayne County Commission, we formed a youth council, and I am still the administrator. I run the day-to-day business of the youth council. These are 10th through 12th graders in Wayne County that want to have a voice in their community. So we teach them what it is to be an elected official, how we legislate from the executive to the legislative to the judicial branches. We teach them all of that so that they understand that first they have a voice and it is important and that they matter. And now on a national level, I'd like to do the same thing. I want to, expand the local county, our county youth council, into a national organization. So our commissioners from all over the country will bring youth in February to our legislative conference in Washington, D.C. These young people from all over the country will come together. They will create their own policies around youth or whatever it is that they feel is important to them. They will create that policy at that time.
That'd be great for a national youth council.
I know you've
already visioned that already. I'm just thinking about how powerful that would be. Because the youth council, we teach them legislation, how to write legislation and all that, and about the law. But even the basics, how to dress, how to speak, we teach them about government. There's so much, and we have the brightest and the best. It's a selection process.
It is. They have an application.
Yes.
That's right. So our applications open in August. So if you know any young person in the 10th through 12th grade in Wayne County that might be interested in the program, there is a short application. They can submit it to my office, and you can reach my office by calling 313-224-0884. Again, that's 313-224-0884, and we can provide you with a application for any youth in Wayne County that's interested. And this is a year-around program.
So every year, students, teens in Wayne County can apply.
Exactly. Yeah. So if they miss this year and they're not in the 10th grade this year, they can join us next year. But we're always looking for the brightest and best. And you know what? When I say brightest and best, I mean just any student that's interested,
that they got the interest and the energy and the excitement, enthusiasm
about learning and growing
and
in
being
this
a leader.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about. I know we're trying to wrap up here, but the other thing is this is your fourth term as Wayne County Commissioner. You just won overwhelmingly in the last election. You're in for another 4 years. How does that make you feel about representing your district on the west side of Detroit and Redford?
Again, I go back to my ancestors. I thank them for this opportunity to represent not only Detroit, where I was born and raised, but now I represent a whole new community,
Right.
Retford Township, and they have welcomed me. You know, at first I was like, oh, you know, this is a little different, but it's good. It's all good. We fit right in
That's right.
to the community. And, you know, so far, you know, I've been their commissioner for the last 3 years now. When the redistricting occurred, which was in 2022, and then I was reelected. I think I got more votes than
Anybody.
I think so, and that was with a whole new district. So I am so proud of the work that we do. So don't forget, as my chief of staff, Michael Van Tool, he's out and about in the community doing the work.
Yeah,
and
but this is supposed to be about you.
No,
I just
but-
wanted to take a minute because we've been interviewing now for the
Yes.
last few weeks, and I
Yes.
just wanted to take a chance, an opportunity to say something about you. But no, I'm just honored to be sitting here next to you. That's all.
Aw.
To this successful lady.
Oh.
That's all. I'm just happy to be right here.
Well, that's very nice of you. But again, I can't do it alone. I can't do it without the community support, my staff, Michael and Deborah, and of course Shantae. We do an awesome job. And by the way, we just hired one of our our 10th through 12th graders.
One
They
of the
come-
youth commission
That's right. That's
council
right.
members.
So
Yeah.
we not only show them how to lead, we then hire them in the summer. And in fact, our previous youth council member, he was a member 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He graduated from high school, and now he's working full-time with the Wayne County Commission.
Yeah.
So that is the work that we do and making a difference in the community. And we're going to continue to do that. And Mike, anything else you want to add?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just we're just we're getting ready to work on our next episode, so stick with us, and we'll be bringing more community leaders, activists, elected officials right here, and authors and artists. We're going to bring them all to you right here on Chew on This Detroit.
Yes, making a difference
Yes.
in politics, culture, and answering questions to real life situations and real life problems.
And one more thing, and that the fact that this program is an offshoot of your newsletter,
The McCormick
the
Report.
McCormick Report, that
That's
has been
right.
going out for many years, thousands of subscribers to
Since
the McCormick
2008.
Report. Yep.
Yeah.
That it actually spawned the birth of this podcast. So that's just testament to the amount of people. I don't know what the amount now is, but I
Yeah.
know it's more than 10,000.
It's more than 10,000
more
at
than
this
10,000.
point.
So
We
yeah.
appreciate you listening today, and just tell a friend. And
Yep. Then we're gonna, you can catch us on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you normally get your podcasts. That will be there.
so thank you again, and we'll see you next week on Chew on This. Thank you.
This is Chew on This with your host, Monique Baker McCormick, and her co-host, Michael Van Tull, powered by the McCormick Report, Detroit's longest running online community newsletter since 2008.